1 million UFO sightings are reported each year. Most can be debunked, but 5% remain unexplained. These are the close encounters. Officer Lonnie Zamora is a 5-year veteran of the New Mexico Police Force. He's built a reputation for not letting anyone get away with anything on his watch.
Lonnie Zamora was going about his business, and his business as a policeman was to, in this case, look after people speeding.
Scaro 2 to Scaro. I'm heading out to the old rodeo grounds in a 510, late model Fury.
Roger, Scaro 2.
You're mine now, boy.
Zamora hears a blast in the distance, so he breaks off the chase of the speeder.
What the hell?
Zamora saw a very bright light. He thought it was a flame, possibly, and it was so unusual and so low that he figured he had to investigate it as a police officer. Was this a plane, possibly, that was having problems? What was this?
Scaro 2 to Socorro. Yeah, we got some kind of explosion southwest of 60 off Canyon Road. I'm gonna check it out.
10-4, Scaro 2. Over.
The search for answers leads him into the blistering desert.
He pulls his car up on top of a ridge so that he can get a better look at what's going on down below him. And he sees what he thinks is an overturned car. He thinks there's been some kind of an accident. He's looking down at what he describes as an egg-shaped object sitting on 4 legs. He's not really sure what it is.
If you can think back to a lunar lander that we had on the moon for the Apollo missions with legs that come out, you know, at an angle from an object to stabilize it, that's essentially how he described them.
But what Zamora sees next is even stranger.
He sees these 2 beings. Zamora's freaked out by what he's seeing.
Officer Lonnie Zamora investigates an explosion in the desert and comes across what seems like a bizarre mirage.
The 2 figures looked human enough, though they were small, smaller than a normal person would be. What happens to many witnesses when they first see something unusual is that they go through what we often call the escalation of hypotheses. And they absolutely start with the reality. With Zamora, it might have been, I'm seeing a secret test vehicle from the nearby White Sands missile range.
Officer Zamora decides to investigate. But the 2 small figures seem to have disappeared.
He figured that they had gotten into a hatch, a door, and had closed it, and that was the thumping sound he heard. He just figured, I have to go investigate this.
Zamora moves towards the craft. He's now only 20 meters away, and he still can't figure out what he's looking at.
Zamora was uncertain about what he was seeing, but he was a police officer, and so he kept approaching the object.
He sees a symbol on the craft, sort of a umbrella-shaped or an arch with an arrow underneath it and a line beneath it in red.
This is like no sign he's ever seen from White Sands or anywhere else.
It didn't say U.S. Air Force. It didn't say NASA or U.S. Army or it didn't say anything like that.
To my knowledge, it doesn't resemble any known alphabet, hieroglyphics, or anything like that. That he sees a flame coming out of the bottom, a bluish glow from the bottom. He's freaked out. He doesn't know whether it's going to explode. He doesn't know what it's going to do.
He turned around and ran, and I can't blame him. He dropped his glasses and therefore couldn't see as well naturally as the object was beginning to go away. Skeptics have used this point to say that, well, you know, it possibly was a test vehicle because he couldn't really see how it was going away. His vision was good enough to see generally that the object was traveling low across country. The roaring sound stopping is critical because if it's a terrestrial vehicle, to stay up in Earth's atmosphere, it has to keep roaring. Jet engines, rockets, planes, everything keeps the engine running as it goes across country. This object didn't do that. Zamora, he then calls into the station and says, send somebody out here.
Hey, Zamora.
Zamora's friend, Sergeant Sam Chavez, is first on the scene.
Hey, buddy. Are you okay?
No, I'm pretty far from okay.
Chavez thinks it's some kind of a joke, but he realizes Zamora is clearly frightened by what has just transpired.
I don't know how to describe it. It's like it had legs. It was like struts coming down, and this is where one of them was, and another one's over there.
You know, there were 4 marks on the ground, and he said there were landing pads, and yes, there's 4 marks that could have been landing pads, and they're in deep enough that it would have taken an object of some size to do that.
See this thing?
The men find a slab of what looks like fused sand. Sand that's been heated at such a high temperature that it's become like glass.
Zamora, what's that?
They also find footprints.
These footprints had an odd geometrical pattern and were smaller than a normal footprint would be.
There were people here, except they weren't people. I don't know what they were. I couldn't see their faces at all.
Socorro is a case that is so unique that it almost deserves its own classification. It is a case where a creature was sighted by a very reputable witness who was in the daylight, very near the object that these 2 humanoids were standing next to. And so it's very hard to deny. In fact, even skeptics will not deny that Officer Zamora saw something and that what he saw was probably what he said he saw.
The incident is extensively investigated by the state police, the Air Force, and dozens of journalists. Gas station owner Opal Grinder reports that a customer buying gas near the sighting complained of a low-flying object almost hitting his car. The Air Force announces that no aircrafts from White Sands Missile Range were involved. An engineer from Northwestern University analyzes the landing marks and determines that they are consistent with a craft of the weight and shape that Lonnie Zamora described. All other investigations by the Air Force involving unknown humanoid beings have been dismissed due to the unreliability of the witnesses. Zamora's sighting remains the only one that has not been rejected.
She was very scared.
Very stark?
The whole window front was covered by strange lights.
For German law enforcement worker Anna Huferland, nothing beats a good, scary movie.
Plauen is a city located about 250 kilometers from Frankfurt in the middle of Germany.
Living in former East Germany, Anna is used to the occasional blackout.
Very stark?
But this feels and sounds different. Anna looks towards a stand of oak trees and sees that one of the trees is illuminated.
The Plauen case is unusual in the sense that we've got a fairly striking light effect, almost like it's an unusual form of fluorescence or a glowing effect.
Anna is mesmerized by what she's seeing.
And the tree itself was being deformed in quite extraordinary ways, as if it was in the presence of a very strong wind source.
Like the light, it's unclear where the wind is coming from.
None of the surrounding trees were experiencing these effects.
After a few minutes, it all comes to a dead stop. Then Anna spots something even stranger.
It looked like two frisbees stuck together. The upper part moved in one direction and the other part in another direction.
She then made this immediate connection between the object that she was looking at and the unusual effects occurring with this small tree.
The object hovers directly outside the apartment of her best friend, Martina.
It was not a balloon, it was not a blip, it was not a helicopter. She was very scared.
In her East German high-rise, Anna Hooferland sees a strange hovering object just outside her best friend Martina's balcony.
It was not a balloon, it was not a blip, it was not a helicopter.
Mutter. Hallo?
Hallo, Martina.
Anna told her friend, there's an UFO above your building.
Anna, du Wahnsinnige. Ich schlafe.
She was naturally skeptical about this.
Nein, nein, nein.
Anna Big Box und Sisi für viel. Und Jenny, die ist ganz
The whole window front was covered by strange lights circling around, very bright white lights.
Balkon.
Okay, genau. Liebling? Frieda? Frieda? Frieda?
She was very scared, so scared that she got her daughter and ran with her down to her friend's apartment.
They get to Anna's place and they're out in the balcony and they see this object. The observation that they described as kind of like a yo-yo manoeuvre of the UFO, it's reported fairly frequently. Sometimes there's variations on it, like this pendulum effect.
The laundry drying on the balcony was covered with black soot.
As a chemist, that kind of details is very significant. It would have been very interesting to have had some analysis done on that, but unfortunately it wasn't a detail that was really investigated thoroughly.
Was it the dust which was blowing up by the wind, or was it something else?
The strange object begins to rise up. Then it disappears above the clouds. All that's left behind is a large hole in a cloud.
and therefore they obviously made the correlation that the UFO had caused this hole in the cloud.
Martina was so afraid from this incident that she never wanted to stay in this apartment anymore.
The police arrive on the scene within the hour. Anna and Martina are asked to draw a sketch of what they saw. Both drawings are remarkably similar. The next day, police tell the media that the sighting was in fact a reflection in the clouds caused by spotlights from a local discotheque. But no explanation is given for the strong wind effect or the hole in the cloud. UFO researcher Illobrand von Ludwiger distributes 500 questionnaires in the same neighborhood, asking about the event. One new witness comes forward. Gunther Landmann independently describes both the object and the hole in the cloud. His sketch of the craft perfectly matches the drawings from Anna and Martina. Von Ludwiger concludes that the lack of witnesses is due to the reluctance of former East Germans to speak out publicly.